When Henry came back, there was already a scarlet rose on my leg. A little crooked, but it was real. I felt finally like an adult. Henry was probably even more upset by the news of my move than even I was. But he managed to find the right words to say, and it calmed me down a little. We hugged goodbye, and Henry gave me that tattoo machine I had used so skillfully as a gift. It would remind me that Henry was always waiting for me here in New York. I was holding his gift in my hands for the entire 800-kilometer trip to Detroit. I knew that life there would be so different, and that was confirmed on my first day of school. My classmates saw the rose during gym, and they bombarded me with questions. Being interesting and needed by everyone turned out to be really awesome. So I decided I would get another tattoo. I took Henry's tattoo machine at night, snuck into my parents' garage, and I came out with an adorable cute cat on my arm. And that was just the beginning. In just the month, I covered myself with about 10 more tattoos, and then I bragged about them in front of my classmates. And that's how I became one of the most popular girls in school. My parents still didn't know anything about my tattoos, but one day, they came home earlier than usual and saw my bare arms and legs. I was thinking of excuses to make when I suddenly heard, "Cute tattoos, honey. Aren't you gonna scold me?" Of course not. Why would we? My parents' friends don't let them get any tattoos. Well, you're luckier than them. Your dad and I don't mind. That was not the reaction I'd been expecting at all. To be honest, I even felt hurt because of it. I would have rather my parents had shouted and then grounded me or something. After all, their approval looked more like indifference. It was nothing new, but still. After getting permission from my parents, I completely lost control of myself. Summer came and I practically never left the garage. I kept tattooing myself for 3 months straight. And as a result, there was practically no free space left on my body. Everything was covered with tattoos. My parents still didn't stop me. Moreover, at the end of the holidays, they gave me a gift for the first time. They left on a business trip for the whole week, and that week was probably the happiest of my life. I imagined how much my classmates would be surprised when they saw how many tattoos I'd gotten over the summer. I came to school feeling so smug, but as soon as I walked into the classroom, I heard whispers. God, what has she done to herself? That's awful. Does she seriously think she looks good? Is this some kind of prank? They all look weird. My blood ran cold. I hadn't expected that kind of reaction. But it turned out that wasn't the worst thing. When the teachers saw me, they complained to the principal, and she told me my parents had to come to the school. Miss Green, they're on a business trip. They'll be back in a week. What? Did they really leave you all alone for a whole week? Well, they call me all the time. I see. You can go now, Jane. After that, I relaxed. The principal didn't call me into her office again, and I spent the week having as much fun as I could. I threw parties and invited everyone I knew to them every day. And as a result, our house turned into a real pigsty. Pizza boxes, disposable cups, candy wrappers, everywhere. I even once saw a cockroach in the living room. There was only one day left before my parents were supposed to come back. I wanted to start cleaning up when the doorbell suddenly rang. Oh, no. My parents had probably come back earlier than expected, and now I was about to get in a world of trouble. Feeling guilty, I opened the door, and to my surprise, I saw a woman I didn't know. She said she was from some social services and walked into the house without even waiting for permission. Why is it so dirty in here? Do you always live in such conditions? Where are your parents? No. They'll be here soon. They're on a business trip. I just had guests, so that's why it's dirty. I was just started to clean up. Wait a second. Why are you here? I don't have to answer your questions, young lady. That woman went around and took pictures of all the rooms in the house. And then she went into the garage and found my workshop there. I couldn't even imagine what that visit would lead to back then. So, when my parents came back, I didn't tell them anything. I was hoping somehow that everything would just resolve itself. But all of a sudden, a month later, my mom and dad received a court summons concerning deprivation of parental rights. And that was the first time I ever saw my parents look so scared. They stopped working and they were busy with documents or something all of the time. But that didn't help. My parents lost the trial, and one day social services came for me. I beg you, please, this is my daughter, mine! My mom clung to me and could barely breathe with all the tears clogging her throat. But they took me away from her tight embrace, and all of my personal belongings were taken away too as I was brought to an orphanage. I felt like this was all some terrible dream. Like I was gonna wake up and find myself at home again, and my parents would come home from work, and we'd all sit down to have dinner together. But reality is much too harsh for that. At the orphanage, I immediately became an outcast. The other kids couldn't accept somebody with so many tattoos, and they were constantly making fun of me. And it was only then that I realized what it was truly like to be alone. I felt like I would never be happy again. And then, my caregiver shocked me with some news. I had been adopted by a couple from New York, and now I would have a new family. I was happy. If those people turned out to be good, they would totally let me see my real parents. Besides, now I would return to my hometown, and I'd be able to be near Henry. After all, that's what I'd been dreaming about. I could not have known how far from reality my dreams were. It turned out that the new family already had 5 children. The couple was only taking in orphans to receive benefits from the state. They didn't give a damn about us. I wore hand-me-downs from one of the girls there, and I didn't get any pocket money. And to be honest, we were fed horribly. But the worst thing was that my new family strictly forbade me from seeing my parents. And I missed them so much. The only thing that saved me from my depression was meeting Henry again. I got a part-time job at a tattoo parlor, and I quickly got regular customers. But one day, the ones I wanted to see most finally came. I was sitting on a couch like usual, holding the machine and getting ready to listen to the customers when I suddenly heard a familiar voice. Mom! I threw myself into my parents' arms. We spent the whole day chatting, and I introduced them to Henry. I finally felt happy. And since then, my parents and I had been meeting in secret. But one day, my foster family saw us together. Those people obtained a restraining order on my parents, keeping them away from me until I became an adult. My parents then had to go back to Detroit. Time flew by, and finally I turned 21. Over the years, my life had changed dramatically. I became a popular tattoo artist and a bride. Henry had proposed to me, and we set the wedding date. Of course, I couldn't wait to share the wonderful news with my parents. After all, now that I'd become an adult, I no longer depended on anyone else. I rented a car and I drove down to Detroit, to the very house where I'd been taken from to an orphanage 5 years ago. My heart was pounding when I knocked on the door. A few more seconds and I would see my mom and dad. But minutes flew by and no one opened the door. They were probably out working, as usual. I was about to get in the car and wait for them when a woman suddenly came out from a nearby house. "Who are you looking for?" "My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Walker. They lived here last I knew, but I guess they're not home at the moment."
"Oh dear. You'd better sit down. About 1 year ago now, a truck crashed into your parents' car and unfortunately, no one survived. I am so sorry."
It felt like I'd forgotten how to breathe. My legs grew weak and I collapsed. The neighbor helped me up and handed me the keys to my parents' house. I don't even remember how I got myself inside. All of the walls were covered with photos of me, and my things were everywhere. My old skates, my school backpack, even the tattoo machine Henry had given me. I picked it up and I sank down to the floor in tears. We had all been so stupid. Why hadn't we appreciated each other before and found hundreds of reasons to be happy? Why had we needed to be separated to realize how much we loved each other? I will never repeat those mistakes. Never again. I'm gonna do everything I can so everyone in my family and Henry can talk freely about their feelings and appreciate every moment they spend with me. I came back to New York and I got the most important tattoo in my life. Portraits of my mom and dad. Now they'll be with me forever.